What's up? This is Alaric Ong, and today I'm here with Tony Whatley. And Tony Whatley became known as the side hustle millionaire after his book with the same title became a #1 bestseller on Amazon. But this book title isn't just fiction, it is based on his actual story. Tony once led a successful corporate career for over 25 years, but that is less interesting than the side businesses that he created, which generated millions in profit. As an active entrepreneur himself, he still owns a few businesses, but his real passion is teaching entrepreneurs how to start, scale, and sell their business within his podcast and consulting brand 365 Driven. He's a community builder of 500k plus members, built multiple 7-figure businesses, sold a side business for millions, and featured on Forbes, Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC, Parade, Try Global, and over 300 podcasts. Welcome to the show, Tony. So excited for you to be on.
Hey, Alaric. Good to meet you, and thank you for inviting me, man.
So, let's start off with talking about how do you exit. Let's start with the end in mind. Let's talk about how you exited the company for millions, and let's work backwards to how do you start the company in the first place. Yeah. And I'll be writing notes as you're talking. Yeah.
Awesome. So the way I sold the company for millions of dollars, I built it and sold it in 6 years. But here's the funny thing about it is I never built it with an intention to sell it. It just grew into a really successful business. And then investors and people that wanted to buy it started approaching me, right? And I think that's important to understand because there are two different ways to have a business philosophy. Some people purposely build a company with the intentions of creating a massive valuation and exiting and selling it for millions. I've got a couple of businesses right now that I'm doing that where we have target dates that we're trying to achieve certain numbers. And then the other ones who actually I think has more longevity is building a legit business that you just like to have. And if it becomes successful, then it also creates valuation. So the way I was doing it is I was running this business day to day, is making about $400,000 a year profit, and had somebody come in and ask if they would be willing to sell that. And to be honest, I didn't even think about selling it until they made the offer. And of course, it was a couple $1 million. And yeah, we decided that was a good time to get out. And with that money, I was able to start other things and move on to the next businesses. So
you sold a business for $2 million, and how much was paid in, like, if you don't mind sharing some numbers, how much was paid in cash, how much was in shares, and yeah.
Okay. It was all cash. There was actually an earnout for about 2 years after that, also based on performance and to make sure we had a really smooth transition from leadership, because my team was still there running it. So they didn't want us to like sell the company and leave all of a sudden. So it was primarily cash up front and then an earnout based on performance.
Okay, take me through the process of buying. How long did it take? How much of lawyers were involved? Was it a painful or how's the process like?
Yeah, even for a company, a couple $1 million, it was a year-long process from the initial contact to the initial phone calls and the due diligence period, which is when they go back through your accounting records and they look up all the integrity of the thing we're selling. I mean, I built a really large community, had hundreds of thousands of members. And we had advertising accounts and we had verticals with doing website design and things like that, but they didn't want the service aspects of it. So I was able to keep the services and the retail side myself. And I still run those businesses, but they just wanted the database of users, 100,000 targeted people with their emails and their names and everything in the automotive space. So the attention that website was creating, just to give your listeners an idea, we had over 100,000 unique visitors every single day. So imagine having a store and 100,000 people coming in your store every single day. That's the kind of business that I built. So I had a lot of valuation just in that. And we were the #1 General Motors performance website on the internet. So all the Chevrolet and Cadillac and Pontiac and GMC, like we had the #1 website on the internet.
Wow. Okay. So 100,000 unique visitors a day. How much is that in a year? That's like 30 million?
Oh man, millions. Yeah. I mean, it was the same people, I would say that, 100,000 unique visitors per day, but there was still an overlap of the people every day. But you got to put that in perspective of magazines, because we were competing for the same marketing advertising dollars as magazines. And a really popular magazine might have 100,000 to 500,000 circulation per month, copies printed. But we had that in one day. And we were also a fraction of the price, where a full page magazine ad was about $5,000 a month back then. we would sell an ad for about $500 a month, and we would have 30 times the traffic. So that's really the businesses that I created are largely why a lot of the magazine and print media have kind of declined and kind of went out of business. I love magazines. I used to be contributing editor and photojournalist for automotive magazines, but business is business, and they had the opportunity to adapt as well. They had the audience, they had the brand name. They should have pivoted to online media early on before seeing companies like mine take over.
Okay, cool. So your main profit center, like the main way to create revenue is through advertising space, is it?
Correct.
That's all. Just advertising space alone.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We had that many people showing up. They wanted to be there, and we had, all the major automotive manufacturers. So we had Chevrolet and Cadillac and GMC, and all the big names were advertising there. And we had the parts manufacturers because it was a performance-oriented community. So we had the speed shops and performance parts manufacturers and tire companies. Anything related to performance automotive was advertising on the website.
So who do you sell the company to?
We sold it to internet brands, and you could go look them up. The business still exists today, which I'm proud of. We started in 2001. It's 20 years, and the company is still the best website for that resource. And it was more of they were going around and buying the number one websites of each brand. So if there was a number one Porsche type website and number one Audi website and they were going and finding the best of the best, and they were buying all of them. So they had a huge portfolio of the best, and they could serve their ads across the entire communities and do them in bundles and all kinds of stuff. So they're pretty smart in that regard and making that investment to go get the best websites.
So what made you decide to sell it when you could have continued building it? Yeah. What was your deciding factors? Yeah.
So the main reason was, since we were number one in our category, there was no way to increase market share. I mean, you got to realize there was thousands of websites out there trying to take us down, trying to be number one, but we were number one. So we had the ceiling above us, like we weren't going to get any more. And that's like one of the questions people ask, like, why didn't you quit your engineering career and do that full time? Well, because I had built processes and systems to be able to scale that other people could do that. I could just pay them to do the things I was doing. Initially, I was the graphic designer. I set up the server. I uploaded the software. I was the leader. I did all these different things early on, but quickly I understood that my profession, which is project management, was also demanding of my time. And I was able to just write systems and processes that I learned in corporate to teach other people how to do that and pay them a lot less to be able to do that kind of stuff. So I could actually enjoy the community as a member rather than as having to do all the day-to-day. So with that in mind, me quitting, because it literally only took me an hour a day, and that was mostly as a consumer and hanging out and just socializing. So me quitting my career, which was also a highly paid profession, did really well in corporate, it wouldn't have added any top line revenue to my business. I was already at the top of the market share. It was plateauing. It was starting to get to it was starting to plateau. And we just figured it was a good time to exit. And luckily I did, because I sold it in 2007, and everybody knows what happened in 2008. So the economy crashed and the mortgage bust and money was just inflated and doing all these crazy things. And I was out there in 2008 building a custom house on some property and buying a bunch of cars and enjoying my life. So I timed it just right. I didn't know that was going to happen, but hey, that's how it works.
So what is the day in your life like when you were running this company?
What was that again?
What is the day in your life like when you were running this company? Like, were you doing content? Were you doing marketing? Or what do you do? What's your average day like? Yeah.
The way I had it is that you got to understand that I had two sets of customers. Okay. I had the users that showed up every day. They got the value. They got to consume the content. They got to enjoy the videos and the how-to articles. And so that was one set of customers, and they were the free customers because they didn't pay me anything. Right. But I understood that I still needed to treat them like paying customers, because if I made their user experience really well, they would keep coming back. And by them keep coming back, that gives me the leverage to attract more advertisers and also increase my advertising rates. So we always made sure the user experience was number one priority. If we saw any servers start to degrade and speed and any kind of issues with the software being laggy, we always stayed really far ahead of that. We always upgraded before we needed it. A lot of people were in a reactive mode back then. They would go, oh, the website starts to crawl, then they would finally upgrade it. We would always measure the analytics and understand, hey, we're performing at 80%. Let's upgrade right now before we get to 90%. And that's what we did. We always stayed ahead. So we want to make sure the User experience was number one, and that's one reason that people kept coming back. And then also my other set of customers were the advertisers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to protect their interest because they were spending thousands of dollars a year advertising with us. In that regard, we guarded them by not allowing people to free advertise, because there was a lot of people. Imagine hundreds of thousands of people coming in. A lot of them weren't advertisers, but they wanted to try to sell something and be kind of spammy or put things in their signature or their bio or kind of indirectly try to pitch stuff. We didn't tolerate that. And we said, hey, if we catch you doing that, we're going to remove your access. And they had so much value from being there, they didn't want to lose their access. It's kind of like when people get banned on Facebook or Instagram now. Like, they're enjoying it too much, they're getting too much benefit, that they kind of behave because they don't want to lose that access. Well, we had that exact same model, and we protected the interest of the advertisers, because why would they pay us if they had other people doing it for free? So treating both sides with a different level of customer service and respect is why it grew.
So was your website, the content, did it come from you, or did it come from like user generated content? So like, were you a platform, or were you more of like an information website? Yeah.
It was a little bit of both. Okay. So initially, yeah, I had to do a lot of content creation. I built a lot of project cars with sponsors and things like that. I built over 40 cars, and we would document the process, and we would race at tracks, and I would do how-to articles, and I had GM, like I had all the media credentials that the big magazines did. So anytime there was a big unveil of some manufacturer, a brand new car or a new engine platform, I had the same media credentials, and I would actually go fly out to those events and make sure I was part of that industry, because that's all about building the network. They want to make sure that you recognize your face and that you're putting the work in and you're giving some value to them. So my initial was content, and the platform just really brought in a lot of people who are willing to also participate and create content. So as we started to grow, I actually had to be less and less involved in the content. So it was a transition over time. So we had hundreds of thousands of members. I would say about 10% of those people were the creators that like to do the how-to articles and make the videos and do all those kind of things and teach other people. So I was really quick at looking at who the people were that were contributing value more than they take. And I made those people my staff members. Like, hey, how would you like to be involved in this? And they're like, yes, I'd love to be a part of this thing that's growing. And so I really got to do this for free. I had 75 people on our staff managing all aspects of the platform, different rooms and the forums. And they did it for free, but they didn't get paid zero. What they got paid was being involved in something that was much bigger than themselves, because that's what humans are. We like to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. But they also got perks. They got discounted parts, and they got sponsors for some of the stuff that was on their car. So they already had the hobby, they had the passion. Now they can get free parts and sponsorships just from being involved. So those people made thousands and thousands of dollars. And I actually had a few of my staff members start businesses and actually advertise on my website. And I'm happy to say I've built at least 12 millionaires that were actually on my staff, and we all keep in touch. And so I've helped build a lot of successful businesses just because of something I created.
Wow. So so how many people do you have on your payroll that you actually pay?
Myself and one business partner.
Just yourself and one business partner, you built a
Yeah, we
$400,000
had
business.
a 1099 guy that was the server, IT, and securities guy.
Mhm.
He did it part-time. He was one of the members of the community. Initially, he did it for free. And then we said, no, you're doing too much work. Let's just pay you. I think we're paying him $2,000 a month on a 1099. So we actually had 0 employees, and we built a multiple 7-figure business online, 100%.
I see. So do you integrate with Google Ads? Like I know you sell advertising space, but do you like collaborate with Google and then
We did not. And we actually probably could have made about $200,000 extra a year per profit if we would have involved Google Ads and hot linking and things like that. And the main reason we did not do that is because we didn't want to degrade the user experience. Again, while other websites were trying to make as much money as possible, we wanted to make sure we just focused on the user experience, make sure they enjoyed being there. And nobody liked to see the Google ads and the links and stuff like that. That was the feedback we got. So we said, you know what? I'm okay not making $200,000 a year if everybody keeps coming back and keeps us number one. And so the people that bought the website and their brands, as soon as they bought us, they implemented Google and all that kind of stuff. But you got to understand, when you're embedding Google ads, you're also competing against the people who are directly paying you to be advertisers. And you're really hurting those relationships. And for me, it was more important to maintain those relationships that we'd established. And nowadays, those people that I was dealing with were the marketing managers and the marketing ad buyers. They're vice presidents and CEOs of a lot of these big companies, and they're still in my network.
I see. So right now, you have this book called The Side Hustle Millionaire, And how do you help people to run their own millionaire heights, like $1 million side hustles?
I think it all starts with the mindset. Most people, when they start a side business, Alaric, they think too small. Okay, they think that it's a side business, so I could treat it like a hobby. But the thing is that when you treat things like a hobby, you get hobby results.
Mm-hmm.
And myself, I've always taken things very serious. If I was going to do something, especially if I'm asking somebody to spend money with me, I wanted to make sure I was at a professional level. Like you're seeing my background and my podcast and things like this. I invest in becoming a professional at what I do, especially if it's making me money. And most people think that the market, the industry out there will cut them some slack because they're new to it or they're a beginner, or the market doesn't care. The market is always looking for the people who rise to the top. And those are the people who treat things as a professional. So you may not have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time. I actually started that company when I was working 3 jobs and I had a newborn son. I just made sure I carved out an hour or 2 a day to develop the website and code it and do the graphic design and write the copy. And I didn't spend any marketing dollars either. I built that whole company starting with $350. And that was just the software license. And I built the entire thing to a multiple 7-figure valuation without ever spending a cent on marketing, just by building networks and being involved in the industry and building those relationships. So that's one way they say that networking and relationships are capital. It's true. So when you build a company, you got to think about, it's not a hobby. It's a serious business. And my website needs to look professional. My branding needs to be professional. You can actually position yourself to look like you're a much bigger company than you are. And it's not even the whole fake it as you make it, because some people are like, oh, I don't want to fake it till I make it. Well, most people aren't faking it and they're not making it. So what is the difference, right? So go ahead and create the branding and treat it like a professional thing. And when you start investing the money back into things to make it grow, that's when it happens. I think a lot of times the business owners, they build a little hobby business and they say, hey, I want to make $500 a month extra. That'd be cool. And then they pay themselves. They make the $500 and they pay themselves $500. And the company never grows because they're not reinvesting that money. So to me, as a side hustle, when your bills are paid and you've got a career, a profession, a job, you can go actually take bigger risks with your side business because all your bills are paid, right? So you need to do things that are a little bit harder and push a little further and take a lot bigger risks because your bills are paid. It's not like you're not in a starving situation if you fail. So take bigger risks and then reinvest a lot of those profits back into the business and let it grow, hiring people, scaling, doing things like that, because too many people want to just pay themselves right away and the company never grows and it just becomes a little hobby business. And that's why people don't really make millions of dollars doing this.
So what is 365 Driven about?
So 365 Driven is my brand. It's an entrepreneurship community. I was actually take that same leadership, that same model, and instead of applying it to automotive, my other passion was business. So I thought about how can I build another community that's going to create a wave across this world of entrepreneurs who want to help collaborate, support each other. Because we all both know being an entrepreneur is a very lonely road. We don't like having small talk with the typical friends. It's just like it's boring. And, we have a lot of questions, but maybe we can't always afford an expensive coach like me. And being in there and surrounding yourself with the right people who are going to encourage you and hold you accountable and push you and challenge you and inspire you. That's the kind of people that we need to surround ourselves with. So that's what I'm building is 365 Driven is the brand. It's the name of my podcast. It's the name of the umbrella company that contains all my content creation and my books. And we've got an entrepreneurship group, about 3,700 members right now.
I see. So who have you interviewed on your 365 Driven podcast?
Big names, I guess. Ed Milet, Andy Frizella, Brad Lee, Sean Whalen, most of the thought leaders that you see out there on the content creation that you would recognize. There's a lot of big names on there.
I see. Cool. So what is a day in your life, right? What is a day in your life like right now?
I'm very focused nowadays, since I'm no longer working corporate as of 2015, that I wanted to make sure that I built businesses around my lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was working a very demanding job, I was international projects, really hundreds of millions of dollars. I was always on call because things always seemed to happen at 3 a.m, right? It's international time zones. I mean, you're from Singapore, you get it. I actually had a company I was doing projects for out of Singapore as well. So it's a global market 24/7. And I was always like having to be the boss and jockey things around. So after I left, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So two of the guiding principles I think about is I want to make sure I have time freedom and location freedom, which means I don't want to have to show up somewhere with hours posted on the front. I don't want a brick and mortar location. all my businesses that I've ever built were online, and I love that because the entire world becomes my customer base, not my zip code. And so when I think about that, it's like, okay, what can I do to impact this world and be able to do this from anywhere in the world? I could be standing in Singapore right now. I could be standing in Africa right now. As long as I got Wi-Fi, I can do my business. I've actually ran my business on cruises and on vacations and all kinds of things. And that's the way I built this by design. And the other thing is that I want to be able to work when I want to work. Sometimes I can work in the middle of the night. Sometimes I'm a morning person and I work in the morning. I don't want to have business hours, so to speak. So what does my day look like? I actually book half-day schedules, about 6 hours every weekday, and I take Fridays off. I don't put anything on my schedule on Fridays because that's where I fill in the gaps or do some networking or things that I want to be creative on. And the other half days I work in the morning, and then I work in the next day I work in the afternoon, the next day I work in the morning, and the next day I work in the afternoon. So it gives me more time to do more content creation, do things I enjoy, building my next project, writing my next book, building my next courses, taking on one-on-one discovery calls for potential clients. And I usually have about 4 or 5 meetings with clients on a daily basis. And that's how I serve the community. My masterminds are 6 to 8 people each. Got a couple of those, and I do those every Tuesday, Thursday, every other week. So I take a week off in between of those. And that's just how I kind of scale. And the things I enjoy is helping other people, seeing them transform. And that's why I do this.
I see. So how do you normally get clients? Is it through Facebook ads? Is it through webinars? Is it through a challenge funnel? I was just speaking to someone who did a challenge funnel. He was talking about how good it is. For me, I do an automated webinar funnel. How do you normally get clients here?
I've done 0 paid advertising, but I'm entering year 4 of what I'm doing. And for me, it was just building an audience based on the book. I have a lot of readers. The book hit #1 on Amazon, sold thousands of copies. And even in the last page of the book, it invites them to a free Facebook group or my website so they can find the community and join that. So that's been really good at joining people. The podcast that I've had, 365 Driven, is also kind of a big funnel for awareness to get people into the funnel, become more familiar with my voice, the way I think, the guests that I bring on, the quality of questions that I ask. And then I always ask them as a call to action, hey, you'd like to hear more, hang out with me, come join the 365 Driven Entrepreneurs community on Facebook. It's free. And then from there, that's kind of the big end of the funnel, the awareness. And so that gets into the paid groups or into the masterminds or into the live events that we've started having, or even the one-on-one coaching, which would be the high ticket offering. So I build things organically, but it's all about building your presence and being omnipresent and being involved in a lot of things. I mean, you're starting to see me hang out more on Clubhouse, which is an incredible app that's great for speakers and people that want to share content. So I've always been a big believer that the more content I create there to help other people, I just attract business. I don't go chasing people, and you'll never see me in your DMs like saying, hey, you need some help. Let me help you out. Let me sell you this. I don't do that. I create value by offering value, helping people, giving advice. They come find me. Every client I've ever had has found me. I didn't go looking for them.
I see. Cool. So if anyone wants to find you, how can they reach you? And do you have any bonus for them? Anything you want to,
Yeah, my easiest way to find me is my website. It's 365driven.com. And from there, you'll find me active on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, but everything's there. The book, the podcast, the Society for Entrepreneurs, everything on one website.
Wait, can you repeat the name of the website?
365driven.com.
Okay, got it. And your Instagram?
That's 365driven.
Awesome, man. So thank you so much, Tony, for being on the show. I really enjoyed. I took so much of notes. I will be uploading it on YouTube, and then once it's ready, I'll send it to you. For those of you who are watching this show, I hope you got value. Make sure you like this video and follow Tony and reach out to him and see, if there's any way you can collaborate. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this show. Thank you.
Alaric, thanks for having me on.